The richest man in the world, the owner of one of the most influential social media platforms on earth, the possessor of all sorts of U.S. NASDAQ clearances, just sits on here tweeting incendiary nonsense and amplifying far-right conspiracy accounts. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. Multiple trans people in the area posted on September 9th that something big will be happening to Charlie Kirk tomorrow. Terrorist cell. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Talk about the kill Rick Scott stuff. I have a video on my YouTube page if you want to go find it. That was yet another instance where like Republicans were manufacturing outrage and misconstruing my words. I mean, like I said, all of those things I've addressed a million times over. You should make a YouTube video of you just addressing and shattering all this fabricated nonsense. Should I? What do you say when I tell you that those videos exist already? I have an entire channel dedicated to where they get those clips from. Do you think it matters to these people? Do you think they care about the truth? No, of course not. Yeah, because no one would go back and find all those individual videos. I mean, it doesn't matter. The debunking doesn't matter. I have done the debunking a million times over. It just, people don't care. They're not, you can only convince someone who is actually invested in the truth. If they're not invested in the truth, and this is not something that they're interested in at all, they're just like angry and they're looking for a target that they find to be appropriate, you're never going to be able to, like, you might be able to convince your parents who are just like, oh, I heard this guy that you're watching has said a bunch of violent stuff. You can have a conversation with them and be like, that's not the case. Here's why it's out of context. He's speaking metaphorically, blah, blah, blah. But like to the average onlooker online who has already established their worldview, who are just literally not reasoning, who are not listening to reason whatsoever, they're angry. They're looking for a valid target. I happen to be the most visible target that they can launch their endless anger towards. Yeah. Like the dude that Elon Musk retweeted, Dan Stalkman, has openly admitted that the truth doesn't matter as long as people are shitting on me. Like, he has said it before. He does not care. He thinks it's totally appropriate because I'm the singular most evil figure in American politics. The Rick Scott video was clear and concise format that lends well to debunking, though. Yeah. Yeah, they have a pretty sophisticated network of harassment that even journalists have written about at this point. Like Bloomberg wrote an article about it. The difference is, of course, like there's only one country's troll operations and troll farms that will take it to that level, and that country is Israel. And I think we all know, I am an op to the state of Israel. So they will use their sophisticated influence peddling operation to elevate Gamergate style harassment campaigns and like try to legitimize them, because there's a network of newspapers that will always cover that shit too. New York Post, Jewish Insider, sometimes Fox News will do it as well. But yeah, if you're coming in here to be like, oh, well, you should do a debunking, it's like, we've had these issues many, many times over, It's not new. All right, let's continue. Got 1.2 million views. Did that stop Republicans from fucking bringing that up to say he's fomenting hatred and he wants to kill Rick Scott? It was very clearly that was not the case. It's also it's incredibly annoying to constantly battle with bad faith actors. Yeah, I know. I would never be able to do news coverage if I constantly was at the mercy of like the most cynical framing on every single issue. I have a lot. Look, I am perhaps the most visible leftist online. Okay. And with that comes a shit ton of political enemies, ideological enemies. Because of that reason, if I were to take it on every single time where someone was like deliberately misconstruing what I was saying, or just adding on to that pile and like making up new shit, for example, I wouldn't be able to do any coverage whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I want to go back to the timeline of how the Charlie Kirk shooting unfolded. And here I am trying to explain to people this other thing now.
Charlie Kirk is in custody. Authorities later say the person of interest was not the shooting suspect and was released after questioning. At 7 a.m. on Thursday.
Hasan, I've never seen you correct or take accountability for what you say. It's always out of context or misconstrued. I understand that does happen, but it's not always the case. Okay. Here, the Rick Scott situation is a perfect example. This is why I don't deal with bad faith actors, by the way. Okay. I said if Republicans, in a conversation that was taking place where Republicans were slated to cut $800 billion from Medicaid, which they are, by the way, they successfully pushed that legislation. The Speaker of the House said, Republicans care about Medicaid fraud. Republicans care about Medicare fraud. We want to tackle Medicare fraud. I responded to that by saying, if the Speaker of the House and the Republican Party broadly cared about Medicaid fraud, they would do the death penalty to Rick Scott, okay? But instead of saying they would offer capital punishment to Rick Scott, I said they would kill Rick Scott. Republicans took that and went with Hasan wants Rick Scott to be assassinated. He's calling for the assassination of Rick Scott. They didn't even actually change the context whatsoever. They just straight up showed the actual thing that I was saying. But because of the language that I used in that instance, they were able to get a 1-day suspension off of it. I explained my position. I apologize for the words that I used in that moment, okay? Taking the accountability that you are saying I do not take. And also went beyond and talked about why I was saying this about Rick Scott, making it a story about Rick Scott's historic Medicare fraud. Because the reason why I brought up Rick Scott and not any other fucking congressperson was because Rick Scott, when he was working for a private healthcare provider in the state of Florida, actually did Olympic levels of Medicare fraud. Okay? So, not only did I take accountability for the language I used in that moment, but I also described it. And yet you're still on this issue claiming I don't take accountability whatsoever and it's always out of context. What am I supposed to do? Fair enough, I didn't see that. No, dumbass, that's the problem because you don't see anything. You don't care about anything. You just operate off of the whims of what other people are saying. The very same people that elevate something that is not actually a significant piece of discourse to make it a sincerely, a sincere moment of accountability. Dumbasses like you get duped by that. You go, oh, he doesn't take accountability for anything because you don't know. You never chose to seek out the context. You never chose to actually find out what I was saying. You don't know anything at all. You just, in the background, in the periphery, heard some shit and you're just repeating it in here. And even after I describe it, you go, well, I just didn't know about that. So what am I supposed to do? Isn't that a big one, though, especially given the emotions on the Republican side, even if it's for the sake of the optics and convincing a fraction of people who actually search for information, even to marginally reduce safety concerns? Maybe, potentially. Yeah, the gut them thing is exactly the same. You're using scary words, but it's being metaphorical about winning a debate. Yeah, 100%. Like, if you look at the context of it, it's very clear what I'm saying. I'm talking about the Herschel Walker debate. The Georgia debate from many, many years ago. I don't even look the same. My background is different. My hair is different. But that doesn't stop people from going off on these ridiculous tangents, talking about how, here, this is what I was looking for. Wingers, I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this? You know what's really ironic about this, by the way? I defended Donald Trump when liberals were attacking Donald Trump about the Liz Cheney comments. No, not in Minecraft. I'm talking about fucking debating, dude. Shut up. You cannot have a bigger fucking layup. You could not have had a bigger fucking layup than a horrible candidate like Herschel Walker. Sure, he was prepared very well. And Herschel Walker actually had a good an advantage. He had the same advantage that Joe Biden had. What is that advantage? It's low expectations. When you are expecting Herschel Walker to go up there and drool, and he actually doesn't drool all of a sudden, everyone's like, wait a minute, it's pretty good. This guy's actually outperforming our expectations. I'm talking about debating. I'm talking about Democrats needing to be more vicious in the realm of debate. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. It's metaphor. It is a utilization of metaphor. Republicans only took the first half of that and they said, oh, Hasan wants to like kill people. Hasan wants Democrats to start stabbing people and killing them. It's no, you are clearly talking about physically slicing humans. Yeah, my expectation is that Nancy Pelosi start fucking killing people. That's what they think.
Exactly what happened with Joe Biden. But beyond that, he was not capable of crafting sentences. I cannot believe that the moderators routinely allowed him to get away with not answering the questions.
I'll give you a great example of this, okay? I'm going to give you one like universal example of this. When people when people are cynical actors, when they're like operatives, okay? It's like if I were to say, I'm going to fuck your mom, and then someone on the opposing side goes, wow, I can't believe Hasan has issued a rape threat against my mother, right? That's not what that is, okay? That's not what that is at all. And everybody understands that. But if enough people actually cynically farm outrage, then you can turn something that is clearly not intended in that, not intended to be received that way, to turn into that. And I'll give you a political example of this with Donald Trump. There have been two instances where liberals took what Donald Trump was saying and made it seem as though he was actually, he was not speaking figuratively, but literally, okay? One was with the Liz Cheney thing, right? And even my audience yelled at me for it because I defended Donald Trump's usage of the terminology, where I said he is saying that Liz Cheney is a chicken hawk, that she would not actually go out and fight these wars, but instead would send others to fight these wars at her behest. Okay, remember when Donald Trump said, Liz Cheney, if she really wanted to go fight, she would go, let's see how she would talk if she was in front of a firing squad or something, right? And everyone was like, Donald Trump wants to send Liz Cheney to the firing squad. And I said at the time, no, Donald Trump is actually talking about Liz Cheney being a war hawk, a chicken hawk, a classic concept, a politician that doesn't actually put their lives on the line, but can so easily discard others to go and die for her imperial ambition. That's what I said. Okay? I defended Donald Trump in that regard because it wasn't even defending Donald Trump. It was defending the truth. It was defending the usage of a metaphor. Another instance where this happened was when Donald Trump said it's going to be a bloodbath or whatever, and everybody fucking jumped on that, right? So it's ironic that I have also personally done this when someone who I am ideologically opposed to has engaged in spicy language or the utilization of a metaphor. But of course, Republicans love doing the exact same thing that they yell when the liberals do it. Everybody does this, okay? Everybody fucking does this. Everybody claims they hate cancel culture, but they love utilizing cancel culture when it suits their purposes. Everybody loves talking about how they love free speech, but they always love to stop free speech from happening. And of course, there is, once again, a step beyond that as well, a step beyond metaphor as well. How do you feel about Elon's remarks against you? I don't like them. I don't appreciate it at all. But unfortunately, the owner of this website that I'm on, Twitter, has deep resentment for myself. So I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do really other than just, continue existing in this world. The more resentful he becomes, the more insane he becomes. The more insane he becomes, the more he tries to agitate. You all realize how big of a deal this is, right? Elon Musk is directly calling out Amazon, Twitch, and Hasan. Something is probably going to happen finally. Just wondering if Amazon thinks it's okay to pay and promote someone he's paid by Twitch and Amazon who makes repeated calls for murder. It wouldn't be okay, which is why I haven't done that. You can start a new employee-owned streaming platform. Yeah, totally, dude. That's what I can do. Let me go do that. He's trying to boost the algo to farm engagements with one word sentences. FYI. No, I know. You might like are insane. Bill Gates, Andrew Tate, and SpaceX. I mean, come on. The website is fucking busted. Yeah. Meanwhile, he's fomenting race riots in the UK. Anyway, it is odd. This is from 13 minutes ago. I mean, he's still doing it, but he's so bitch made. Like, dude, talk to me directly if you want to have a fucking issue. Why did you block him? Because it's unbearable when he's unblocked. His posts show so much. His posts still show up even when he's blocked, but at least they show up with less frequency. I've already addressed this when he tried to say I was a coward for blocking him. Last time he tried to call me a pussy and got fucking owned on his own goddamn website, as a matter of fact. The last 30 minutes of this broadcast are a perfect example of why you can't respond to these insane attacks all the time, because you wanted to talk about the news and now we have to use this time to relitigate all this nonsense against you again. I know. Do you find yourself as divisive? Yes, of course I find myself as divisive. Are you kidding me? Dude, there are people in this country. There are a decent number of people in this country who believe the most demented shit. Obviously, I'm going to say certain things that they find to be ridiculous. The problem is, larger and larger numbers of the population, due to like spending too much time online and breaking their brains through the algorithm, are becoming increasingly more insane. And it is no measure of mental sanity to be well adjusted to a mentally insane society, right? So yes, I am a divisive figure. I'll give you an example, okay? Someone who was an anti-fascist would be considered a divisive figure in 1930s Nazi Germany. And they were both politically prosecuted and also literally shot and killed or sent to fucking concentration camps. Okay? That doesn't mean that they were wrong. I think we can understand that in 2025. All right? But they were considered divisive for the time that they existed and the things that they did.